They'll blanket you in Wi-Fi and profit off the radiation. Congregation collecting the people for that Satan. I keeps it blazing, cause I can read between the lines. I ain't blind, we unwind what they're really saying. Genetically modify what you're tasting. Loan you that cottage promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Programmed to crave the basics. Keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid. You're in debt for being born. Messengers are more than just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed, disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
So we, eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful friends. Welcome to Tuesday night's edition of Rogue Ways. Nice to see you all. Tomorrow is my birthday, so I hope you're all ready for that magic. It's coming fast. I'm super excited. This year I've had so many really thoughtful and nice birthday gestures, which I don't always have, and so it's really cool. And people are like, oh, how do you feel now that you're turning 39, turning 39 tomorrow? I had to think about it for a second. And the answer is I feel just like I did every other birthday I've ever had. I don't feel different at all. I don't feel older at all. And you may notice that I dyed my hair again. I did. I really liked that color. And then I really also wanted to go back towards my older color since the roots were starting to come out. That's just how I roll. So anyway, that's the truth of my situation right now. I'm really excited. Tomorrow, I have a really cool interview I'm doing. It's going to be pre-recorded. It is with a woman who you may or may not recognize. I'm not really sure, honestly. I just found her on an SGT report, and she is someone who works with satanic ritual abuse survivors. And so we're gonna do an interview. We're pre-recording it, and so I have, just like I did with awesome interview with Dr. Cowan the other day. Part of it's going to be on YouTube, available to everyone, and the juicy parts are going to be available to supporters at rogue.locals.com. So you can just preemptively go to rogue.locals.com and, support at $2 a month or more. Feel free to support it more, but that's the minimum, and that's really nothing at all. So hopefully you can go do that and get ready. You can catch anything that you may have missed in the past that's only in rogue.locals.com, and you get ready for the stuff that is coming your way in rogue.locals.com, like that interview and so much more. It's really exciting for me. I mean, I don't want to that sounds kind of fucked up, right? It's not really exciting for me to think about satanic ritual abuse at all. It's obviously some of the sickest aspects of our world. But I love talking to people who know about it, because it is important for us all, I think, to be aware of some of the signs and symbols of that. And I think it's also good for us to be aware that it happens, and just what it entails, and then therefore how we can fight back and how we can bring the brightness that we have to all of that darkness that is all over the place. And we also have Gary Wayne coming up on Thursday. We have a doctor. I keep calling him doctor. He's not a doctor. He just seems like a doctor because he's so incredibly smart. But his name is Douglas Vogt, and he is an expert on what might be coming to cause not the great reset that these schmucks are planning, but the real reset that society seems to go through every cyclical so often. He has studied this in detail. It ties in with biblical history and, Tartaria and all of these things. And I mean, the depth of this man's intelligence is stunning. And so I'm very excited. I am so sorry I forgot which listener suggested him, but thank you. What an awesome tip. Such a good source. So that's going to be coming up this next week. We have all kinds of cool stuff. And then it's going to be the 3 Days of Brightness retreat. And I'm so excited for that as well. It's so cool. So many good things, and they're trying to make it a dark winter. And we're like, no, we're good. We'll keep it with the bright winter. We'll do all the cool stuff. So I'm just super excited. All sorts of things are happening. And I don't know if I said it, and if I did, I didn't say it enough, but my chickens lay eggs now. Woo! I'm so proud of them. It's so stupid how proud I am of them. That's what they do. They're chickens. But I'm like, well, babies lay the eggs. And today, Johnny and I ate the first eggs from our chickens, and it was delicious. And it's kind of weird to be like, I eat this thing that comes out of my pet's butt, but at the same time, we put a lot of energy and time into getting to that point. And seriously, they're delicious. If you've never had, eggs from chickens that eat bugs and leaves and, free range and also get exercise and are also loved and also have plenty of space, you're missing out. It's just completely different, and the yolks are like darker yellow and so good and nutritious, and it's just so worth it. If you're not raising chickens yet and you have a way to, you have like even a tiny yard, do it. Worth it. So awesome. See who's in the chat today. What's up, Jeff Green? Nice to see you. Austin Beach is in the house. Truth is Alchemy is here. Ilya Chernyshov is here. Thank you. Happy birthday to me tomorrow. Regan Rempel is here. What's up, Regan? And we have Ancient Diamonds also, as well as the people who have not yet said hello in the chat. If you feel like saying hello in the chat, jump over there and do it. Yes, so yeah. Today we're going to talk about just a mishmash of things, and then we'll do a call-in later if people want to call in. We can chat a little bit, and that'll be exciting. What's up, Michelle Mullen in the house? Oh, I also forgot. I wanted to show you guys some of the orgonite that I have made recently. So just excuse me for a moment while I grab that. These two pieces I'm about to show you are not in the shop yet. These are the plaques, which people like hang on their walls. Or if you just have somewhere you want to like set it, like on a bookshelf or something, you could do that. They're just meant to be sort of artistic additions. They are orgone. All of these are orgone energy accumulators. And it just depends on which way you would like to have those. They are, I will promise you, the cheapest orgone you can probably find anywhere. But that's not true. Some people just give it away. So, But I think it's the most unique. I like to make them in my own style, artistically. These specifically have black tourmaline in them, and so they're meant to be sort of festive and Christmassy, just the red and the white and the silver, but also they're going to negate some of the darkness that's coming this 3 days of darkness that we're turning into a 3 days of brightness. So if you need a little extra boost, you can grab this little circular one. It's not up in the shop yet, like I said, but if you want to message me, I can pull it aside for you, or you can get this larger square one. This one would be about $45. And the other would be about $30. And I wanted to show you some of the pendants. Just excuse me while I disappear for a second. I forgot I wanted to show you guys these. I also, just so you know, I have about 7 or 9 extra pieces that they're still powerful. They're still organized. They still have the exact same properties, but they're not perfect looking. They got messed up a little bit, and I throw those in for free for the first 7 to 9 people who order, because then you have it, you can tuck it somewhere, you can hide it in someone else's house, and they get it even if they don't know what it is or want it, or whatever you want to do with it. It's just an extra little, I bury them around my property sometimes just to make a little grid or whatever. This one is up on the side. It's a little bit smaller. I'll just bore you for a little bit longer and show you some of the pendants, because those are my favorite. I like to be able to wear it and take it around with me wherever I go, and it's beautiful and awesome. And I know some of the guys are like, I don't wear necklaces, but you can also keep it in your pocket, which is some people I know do. But the pendants are yay size, right? And they're also meant to be, again, sort of festive, sort of Christmassy. But I mean, you could wear this at any time of year. But it's got that fun, festive holiday colors going on. So we do have some green. Oh, forgive me. I don't remember what type of crystal it is. It says it on the description on the site. Yeah, I'm not going to remember. But beautiful. It's got crystals, paper, roses, and metallic silvered and gold pieces as well. Super, super powerful. You get one, you'll know. My little pendant, that's just the first time I saw orgonite on a pendant, was a super awesome, amazing day. I've probably told this story before if you guys have heard. But anyway, I found that little tiny pendant and I was like, whoa, people make orgonite pendants. This is amazing. You can carry it around with you. And that's exactly what I want to do. I don't want to just leave it in my house, although that's cool too. I want it to be with me because that's the point, right? So I loved that and I got it, but it was very expensive. It was very, very expensive. And I'm not going to lie, the quality of the products that I put into mine are way higher and cheaper. So also I have a few earrings left. I shouldn't show them off though, because I have some people who wanted to earmark them, but I do earrings as well. A pair of earrings, and I wear those as well. I keep pieces for myself now and then. I'll show you one more, which I love these ones. It's actually 2 in 1, but I love because you can get these as a pair for somebody. Like a mother and daughter bought one pair one time, and they just are perfect together, and they mirror each other's energy and unite into one, and it's a beautiful thing. So all of these are available and more on the site if you go to rogueways.org and you check out the Organite section of the shop, as well as some of the other designs. This is just the newest batch. All right, so we'll put the Organite away for now. I love it. It's a great Christmas gift too. And to be fair, you want your friends and family and loved ones to have that protection and that energy around them, right? I'm like, how can I get my family to take Organite for me? But if you don't even have to tell them what it is. You're like, here's this necklace I made. Like, happy times for you. And that's, it's cool. It doesn't hurt anybody. There's no way it could. It could only help. So good Christmas present, as well as other things that are up. In fact, let's go take a look at the site really quick. Rogueways.org is the site. You can check it out. Oh, I just happened to have it on the 3 Days of Brightness retreat. I am so excited for it. The people who are coming so far are badasses, of course. Only badasses would be attracted to this sort of event. And I am considering doing day passes. And so if you're somebody out there who's been wanting to get this and the massive magical solstice discount that's available to rogue.locals.com members is not enough to convince you, you maybe will be excited to hear about the one-day pass options. I haven't put them up yet, but they're in the works. They're on my list, so it's going to happen. We're definitely going to be enlightening, enlightening. All enlightening means enlightened. I shouldn't say all it means. There's obviously like a level of enlightenment that people want to get to that is far, far beyond where many of us are right now. But enlightening literally means enlightening. You're bringing the light in. Enlightening. You want to lighten yourself in all of your many bodies, all 4 bodies. And that's what we're going to be doing during this retreat. And that's why I called it the 3 Days of Brightness, because you're going to be enlightening yourself and taking that light and shining it back out at the world. You're going to learn all sorts of things. You're going to practice all sorts of things and actually put them into practice and develop all kinds of good habits. And again, we have such cool people presenting and teaching there. We have master teachers from various disciplines and experts in their fields, especially in the spiritual and the permaculture and, gardening and herbal sort of remedies and all of this. So I'm super stoked. I can't wait. I know the people who are going are super stoked. And I hope that you are getting closer and closer to grabbing your spot so you can come as well, because it's gonna be rad. So you can also check out the tarot section of the shop and all the things I write on the main page, and there's the rogue gear that could make a good gift too, depending on who you're gifting. You could buy classes for yourself and your friends for gifts, and also in the art and writing section there are art pieces and books that are also great gifts. So there's so many things that you can do to support me and the show and also get super awesome stuff. So go check those things out. And of course, again, if you go to rogue.locals.com, you can become a member for free. You can browse the content here. There's all kinds of good stuff. And if you become a supporter, then you get a discount code to the 3 Days of Brightness retreat. You also get other discount codes sometimes just to the shop in general. You have all kinds of content. Like I said, that Dr. Cowan post or video or interview, I should say, that was only for supporters. There's so much stuff. So go check out rogue.locals.com and be in our community. We love you. We want you there. So today what I want to talk to you guys about was a bunch of stuff. One we're going to get to is the alleged alien disclosure, movement or whatever that people think is happening. And maybe it is. I hate to be just like, I know it's not, because I don't know anything. But I have some pretty good indications that that's not what's going on over many, many, many years of deep thought about it. But I also want to talk about a few other things before we get there. It all ties together. I tell you what, I don't even have to make it try. It just does. Check in with the chat before we jump into all that. And thank you, Ancient Diamonds, for the birthday wish. Homegrown eggs cannot be compared. It's true. I'm serious. If you have not tried it, you have no idea what I'm talking about, and you should find out because they're delicious. I don't even really like eggs that much. But homegrown eggs are amazing. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I also cut my hair. Regan just said I like the new hairstyle. I chopped it off. I chopped it really short. I wasn't really intending on going that short, but that's what happened, and it's fine. It took me a few days to not hate myself. No, not really, but it took a while to get used to. I'm still not used to it. But thank you very much. Matt Feinberg's in the house. What's up? Thunder Chicken, I hope YouTube stops crashing on you. Regan, would I be able to make an orgonite pendulum? I have some, they're in the shape of earrings, however. And someone already bought that pair. But yes, I do have a pendulum shape that I make from time to time. And it's super good energy if that's what you want to use it for. Love in the Midst is here. Giving us love for Oregon. From Oregon. For Oregon. Both ways. Love right back. Clem Vandago's here. What's up, Clem? Another Oregonian. Oh, what's up, Erie Fairies? Also here. Snake Jones is in the house. Snake Jones, he knows. He knows. Howard Ewing, what's up, Howard? Yeah. Thunder Chicken. That name makes me laugh. I love it. So, okay, we went through the Great Reset like a shit ton of time ago on this show. And then, over the past few months, it's been getting a lot more attention from all kinds of alternative media outlets. But back when we went, I don't even honestly remember when that was. I just know it was a bit ago. It was sometime during the early days of the pandemic, I want to say. Maybe it was May or April. I don't remember. But whatever, when we talked about it, one of the documents that we went through was from this group here that calls themselves the Purpose Disruptors. The Purpose Disruptors. They put out this giant pamphlet that was super dystopian and weird. And I don't know if you remember, but the imagery, the symbolism of the imagery, it was really very... It was weird to me because I was like, none of this looks good. It doesn't sound good. It seems to carry with it this energy of I don't know, almost revenge or something. Oh, the world has not treated us well, and so we're gonna reshape it in our image. And I don't know, it was very subtle, but I just felt that energy from it. And you probably remember there was people with their eyes missing and just really strange pamphlet. But it was trying to pretend it was all yay, we're so good, we're gonna change the world together, and it's great. And I know that people who are often going along with these types of agendas do feel like that, and it's sad because that's never what is actually happening. So we looked through that, and it was creepy. And so I signed up, you may remember, at the time, I think during that show, for their mailing list because I wanted to, keep up with what they were doing. And so they've sent me these few things that I wanted to look at with you just to see what they're up to. And so first, I just Purpose Disruptors. Let's just really get into this. What's the definition of purpose? Something set up as an object or an end to be attained. So we're gonna disrupt the end that people have set up to be attained. People in general have made a goal and they're heading towards it, and we're gonna come in and disrupt that. That seems pretty fucked up to me too. If it was like, not directed at society in general and people in general, for example, if you guys and if you and I and whatever, we were like, you know what, we've had enough of satanic ritual abuse and we intend to disrupt their purpose. That would make sense to me. That's a specific group and it's a specific goal. And maybe that's how they think they intend it. But especially in that booklet that we went through, and in a lot of the content they create, they seem to be leveling this at the entirety of our modern world. We're going to disrupt the purpose, the goal, the end object to be attained of our entire society. I'm like, well, who made you that power? Like, who gave you that right to judge all of the world and decide that you, this very tiny group of people, should be disrupting it? All right. And like, whatever. I'm not saying people don't have the right to decide they want to disrupt whatever purpose they want to. I just wanted to look closer at that because I think it's a pretty arrogant, and, well, I mean, just rude. It's rude. It's rude. It's just rude. So that's, it's like, it doesn't look so good on you, but I guess that's what you want to call yourself. So then they're going to have this event. It's a Christmas event. It's a Christmas event for a Christmas gathering. It's going to be on the 15th of December, just right before the Grand Conjunction. And who are we? Well, you should know if you're getting this invite, but I guess they're still not, I guess the people involved in this are still not sure who they are. That's an understatement. They say Purpose Disruptors is a network for advertising insiders whose goal, this is not how it was described in the pamphlet, by the way. Advertising insiders? Huh? The pamphlet was directed at just disgruntled, I would say, like, leftist people who perceive themselves to be young and edgy, right? That would have been the group that I had taken from their content that they were intending to target. Now they're saying it's a network of advertising insiders. That's a weird switch. But it also tells you something about who is actually behind it. It's advertising and media people, right? Weird. This is all, by the way, in the UK, as far as I know. But that doesn't mean there's not some corollary in the US that we just haven't discovered the name for yet. And if you know the name of that group, I would love to know and look into them. Anyway, their goal is to create a visible, large-scale movement within the industry that will act in solidarity to meaningfully tackle climate change. Again, that was not in any way the main thrust of that first. It was a large part of it. They definitely are focused on climate change. And we all know from Agenda 21 and all of this, green movement and over the years that there is an agenda hidden within that agenda. And that agenda is to control human populations even more. Control what we buy and sell, control how we move about the planet, control where we live, control how we live and what we live in and all of that, how we use and create electricity. Just 100% of it it's basically a complete domination agenda. And we've seen that. We've talked about it. We know it. Most people involved in the climate change movement don't know that. They literally think that if they don't do this, the world will end tragically and everyone will die. The world will end tragically someday, probably. Definitely everyone will die. Whether or not it's involved in that tragic end or not. But it's probably not going to be from this. Maybe if they stopped spraying the sky, it'd go way better for us. We meet regularly, they say, to share our thoughts and concerns with like-minded individuals and develop initiatives that have an impact. Again, none of this is wrong. You want to get together with people. They have the same ideas as you. You want to make art and put out messages through your media network and your advertising network, then it's fine. If we went back to that booklet and you remember how nefarious seeming it was and how this content fit in perfectly with the Great Reset. I mean, it was called the Great Reset. I think they're distancing themselves from that message as well, because it doesn't say the Great Reset anywhere on here. And it also doesn't link to their main site. Then they sent me this survey, so I wanted to take the survey. Purpose Disruptors survey. How did you first become aware of Purpose Disruptors? I want to say an internet search. I was searching for the Great Reset. That's literally how I found it. And your dystopian nightmare appeared. That's how I found it. I'm honest. What was your main motivation for joining the purpose disruptive community? Is surveillance an option? No. Other. Surveillance. I wonder if they're going to kick me off their list. 3. Before you joined Purpose Disruptors community, how active were you in tackling the climate emergency? Not at all active. Do you consider yourself active in the Purpose Disruptors community? No. Would you consider yourself someone who has been actively supporting the Purpose Disruptor team behind the scenes, helping with events, blah, blah, blah? No. In your role as a member, please rank the following and what you have the most energy for. I have no energy to get involved. When you talk about Purpose Disruptors, how do you describe what we do? A group of misguided people who are being used to further a total global, I don't even want to say reset, that's their language, a total global domination agenda under the guise of climate emergency. It's kind of fun. I don't think they're going to read this. What is the one thing Purpose Disruptors have done ever that you think has had the most impact on you personally? Personally, your very strange Great Reset handbook. I don't know. Engagement. Have you been following or been involved in our most recent campaign, the Great Reset? Yes, I have been. Why you got involved in the Great Reset? So that other humans could have a chance to see how delusional and really emotionally unwell this movement is. Maybe someone reading this will be like, man, am I emotionally unwell because I can't take care of myself and must like externalize my worry onto the rest of the population despite their will? Probably not. How did you first hear about it? I already said, dude. Oh, now they're just talking about the Great Reset. Well, at least they do use the language. It's just like 15 or however many questions in. So they are distancing themselves from it, but they're not. I lost my train of thought because I started typing. I think you guys understood my point, whatever it was. Have you watched the Great Reset launch video? No. What? I want to watch that. I want to see how creepy it is. Yes, I read the white paper. We read that together on that same episode. The white paper. I love how people are like, if we call it the white paper, then people will like really like it and think that it's important. I'm like, I could call anything I write a white paper, but it's branding. This is how people's minds work, I guess. Have I shared it? Yes. I've shared it with however many hundreds of people have watched and listened to that episode. How many Purpose Disruptor events have you attended? 0. Are you able to provide examples? No. And hopefully there won't be any. Unless it is to awaken people to things like Agenda 21 and more. Oh, and Klaus Schwab. Earlier on, we asked you how active you were. How active would you say? I'm not active with you. Very active on my own. Wow, they really expect a lot of people. There's 59 questions. What? I'm not doing this. I'm just going to click things now. Oh, this is all just really stupid stuff now. Oh, I don't have to do that one. I definitely and then, there's always with these types of things, they're like, they're trying to mine this information so that they can get people to commit their skills to this, which is like, what I guess that's what everyone does. It's just sick. They're like finding people who are really emotionally unwell, are deluded into this line of thinking that the world is definitely going to end in like 8 years if we don't do something. They're tying it into this entire cultural and societal literal reset. That's what they described in their stupid white paper or whatever. And then they're like, by the way, since you're so worried about this, why don't you let us use you and give us all your time and energy to create these things that we've decided you should be doing in order to stop this thing? And whatever. It's cool if it makes people feel good and they want to give their power and energy to that, then do it. But whatever. I just want to submit the survey so that maybe somebody will read that. I'll do it later. That's getting boring. All right. So the Great Reset is not just, of course, as we know, with those people. Those people are like any planned movement from the highest level of the Illuminati or whatever you want to call these controllers down. There's like all these different areas that they're going to be working at any given time. There's always going to be people in media, people in like spiritual and religious movements, people in, education, of course. And just all of those sort of institutions of our societies, and they purposely break it down into all these different, like targeted by even like race or age, and so that one for the UK is just one little tiny example of a group that is targeting a certain type of person who's likely to be able to be brought into the fold more and more, and so. And so that's just one little option. But of course, it's everywhere. And it's funny because so I was like, well, let's just check on, where they say their little Great Reset is right now. Because we know that they've been distancing themselves. There's like articles out about how like it's a conspiracy theory and people think that like world leaders are planning a reset of, I'm like, they are. There's like all kinds of documentation about it. It's not a conspiracy. It is literally a conspiracy theory, but it's not even really a theory because it's just out there. It's like a conspiracy fact. We know they've conspired to do this. Anyway, so they've been distancing themselves from it, trying to call it a conspiracy theory because a lot of people started paying attention. It was trending on Twitter and like it was pretty cool. But this is from today, 2 days ago, Sunday, December 6th. And it's, what is that? John Kerry? Yeah. Oh, he's president-elect Joe Biden's climate envoy nominee. Well, just such a big deal for John Kerry. Great Reset to futility. The pandemic slowed human activity, but not Mother Nature's. Like... but we called this way back at the beginning of the pandemic and the shutdown and whatever, the plandemic and the fucking tyranny shutdown, whatever. What can we call that shows how tyrannical it is? Somebody come up with something. Way back then we were showing, there's all these articles. That was another episode of Rogue way back then of just showing like how they're trying to paint this as like the best thing that ever happened to the environment. And it's not bad. No one's going to disagree. Like if air quality gets better because less people drive, that's cool. Like we like that. There's nothing wrong with that. It was just they were focusing on it so much that we knew that was going to tie into their Agenda 21 and their greenwashing plans or whatever, to change the whole world and transform our whole society, because they loved it way too much. And here they are saying, yeah, it was good, but it's not enough. It's not going to save us from the eventual catastrophe that's going to kill everybody. And this is just a propaganda piece, which you can assume anytime you're reading the Washington Times. No, anytime you are seeing analysis and opinion, but really anytime you're watching anything or reading anything on mainstream, any media now. But like this first line is so dumb. Thinkers of lofty thoughts have high hopes for a great reset. Like, go fuck yourself. What the fuck is wrong with you? Thinkers of lofty thoughts. So the implication here, if you want me to unpack that, is that you don't have lofty thoughts. You're not a quality thinker if you're not hoping for a great reset. So well written in the most horrible way. Oh, and then they just describe it. A wholesale reordering of society in order to achieve fairer outcomes. Like, wow. Have you seen it described so bluntly before? I have not. This is a pretty fucked up. This is a pretty fucked up article. And the crazy thing is someone would read this, not they wouldn't even, you'd just be like reading like, oh yeah, it's like on the newspaper today, if people still do that. And this comes up and you're like, yeah, totally, yeah, I guess lofty thinkers are totally going for something that's much more fair. Is it fair? Is it going to be fair? Are people like John Kerry going to start like living in normal size houses and not flying all over the world at their whim? Probably not. Probably not. Probably I won't be able to. Probably you won't be able to. But John Kerry's going to get to, and somehow that's going to be more fair than what we have right now. Fascinating. Conveniently, this artist, yeah, they're a con artist. Conveniently, this artist says, the COVID-19 pandemic has ripened the moment for the envisioned transformation. How convenient. As though it weren't planned. It's just a coincidence that this just so happens to just lead us right into this great reset. How convenient. This article is amazing. We have to save this forever. It's a piece of art. Integral to the process, they say, according to Reset advocates, is a switcheroo. Just a good old switcheroo. You don't have to be scared of a switcheroo. Like, the word choice is amazing. This person is really good at being a shithead. Just a little switcheroo from a consumption economy model to a sustainably green one. Green is in quotation marks because it's not actually better for the planet in any way at all, as we've gone through before. With the added benefit of saving the planet from global warming. Is it global warming? Or is it global cooling? Or is it global climate change? What is it? Make up your mind. Today it's global warming, apparently. The only problem is it's not working. The leading champions of change nonetheless are reassuring each other that the pivotal time has arrived. The Great Reset will happen. Says John Kerry, U.S. Special President Envoy for Climate in a Biden administration. Just the gymnastics, the mental gymnastics of this first sentence in this second paragraph is also amazing. It's not working, but the moment has arrived. We'll reassure each other and we'll cheer for John Kerry. And I think it will happen with a greater speed and with greater intensity than a lot of people might imagine. That's terrifying. If that's not a terrifying sentence to you, I don't know what is. John Kerry, who will eat your babies, by the way. It's funny because that's like an old, like Funny or Die, or I don't remember, but it's a way back in the internet's early days. There was like a video about John Kerry. It was making fun of how, attack ads on TV. And it was like, John Kerry will eat your babies. And I like only years later was I like, holy shit, they were right. That was not even a joke. Anyway. Yeah. So it's going to happen with great speed and great intensity. Way more than people imagine. Well, my imagination's pretty speedy and pretty intense. So hopefully that sentence is totally wrong. Years ago, the great Saint Barack Obama had a similar premonition. The prophet believed his ascendance signaled the moment when the rise of the oceans began to slow and our planet began to heal, he said from his oceanfront property. This is such bullshit. Bullshit. To be sure, it's not unusual for big dreamers to imagine themselves at the center of the universe with the power to change the world. What the fuck is this? Is this a bedtime story or a fucking news piece? Good Christ. I can't believe people read this and they're just like, this is totally normal. I should agree with all of this. Earth is a pretty big place, though, and change of great magnitude is usually measured over eons. Except for times like the present, the dreamers suppose, when the coronavirus crisis has played havoc with the orderly progression of human activity. No, it hasn't. Politicians have done that. Accordingly, those who, like Mr. Kerry and Mr. Obama, believe we are the ones we've been waiting for, sense an opportunity to seize this juncture and fashion a world of economic equity and climate equilibrium. No, they don't. When they say economic equity, what they mean is all the slaves don't get shit, and we still get to live our luxurious, lavish, shithead lives. I mean, is there anybody who even reads this who's like, thinks that those people telling them that this is how it's going to be are going to live in like, you know, like a 900 square foot house, like this is probably like 700 square foot. I have a really small house, or whatever. No, they're not going to ever do that. You're never going to. Now, do you think you're going to like move up into like a bigger house with a nicer property and like a waterfall in the backyard? Like, no, you won't even be able to go to the waterfalls because it'll be off limits because you're a dirty, dirty human and you won't be allowed. The environment is too pristine for your dirty, dirty touch. Your presence is destructive. Just kill yourself now. They would love that. They have to paint us in that light or none of this works. And the people who internalize it make me very sad. Oh, global economic activity decreased by 5.2% due to COVID-19. Again, it's not due to COVID-19. Due to, unless that's what they call their program of like rolling this all out. That's the code name for the program, for the operation. Then yeah, otherwise no. Again, it was politicians. It resulted in no accompanying drop in atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide, the primary greenhouse gas produced by billions of busy human beings. Except it's mostly produced by the military, which most of us don't want to be doing most of the things it's doing. So there's also that. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, we'll just read the last paragraph because I'm sure it's just juicy and ripe with bullshit. If economic disruption wrought by the coronavirus has been but a whisper amid the whirlwind of Mother Nature's billion-year cycles, the sort of worldwide reset envisioned in Green Dreams would require regression to humanity's pre-industrial past. What would be so great about that? I don't know. Maybe this person's actually against the Great Reset because that actually was the best argument against it. Maybe they're like full of shit to get people like who would normally agree into it, and then they just slap them with that at the end. Well, that was actually very well done then. Who is this genius? It's just the Washington Times. There's no writer. Very weird. Not what I was expecting. Hold up. By comparison, Biden administration plans to fashion a net zero emissions economy that would make the pandemic decline look puny. That's terrifying as well. This is actually, yeah, okay. Maybe we're in agreement. Maybe they're like, yeah, all these lofty maybe that was actually, so again, the minds that like to look at this kind of thing use a very simple method of determining whether or not something should be listened to. And it's egos, pathos, and logos. It's the basis of, it's not the logically accurate way of persuading someone, but it is the way that most people seem to be persuaded. And so they go in with the ethos. They're like, look, these lofty thinkers are doing this, and it's John Kerry and it's whoever, and it's all these people you like. And then they go in with the logos, which is like the facts. They're like, oh, a 5%, whatever they said, that 5% do whatever, lower economy and blah, blah, blah. And the parts per million, you know, of carbon dioxide, like, isn't very high. That's the logos. And then they have the pathos where they're like trying to get you emotionally involved in it. It's disappointing or it's unhappy or whatever. And then it worked. And then at the end, they're like, yeah, so that's why none of that's going to work. Wow. That works. That works for me. Not what I was expecting. Interesting, though. Still terrifying that that's what they're planning. Can you guys read this? And this one's from the American Thinker. Let's see what you guys are saying, actually. I'm just talking. The old switcheroo. Oh, the Extinction Rebellion. Yeah, that's like the more radical version of the Purpose Disruptors. The Purpose Disruptors are like the media, the PR side of the Extinction Rebellion. Eerie Fairy just said in the chat that her ex was into that. You won't own anything and you'll be happier. That's what my mouth shall speak the truth. Just summarize the Great Reset. You won't own a single thing, and we promise it'll be really great for you. Bonnie points out, so Amazon will shut down, right? Surely the fuel being used to ship packages around the world will need to be scaled back to achieve optimal greenness. Yeah, no, I'm not even... They might literally be planning that. I don't know. Man. Their visions are all horrible. What's up, Abe Williams? Welcome to the chat. Oh, this dingo and this baby thing just came up again somehow. And like for the 65th time in my life, I still don't know what it's all about. Someone will probably tell me and I still won't remember because somehow my brain cannot attach to that story. Yeah. Abe Williams points out, we get blamed for all this pollution, but NASA keeps shooting rockets in the sky. Thousands of tons of pollution per 5 seconds of each launch. Yeah, exactly. That, the military, some of these like crazy companies like Facebook drilling underwater cables and all of the energy that goes into these types of things. And I get it. People want to use those types of services, and so they exist. But yeah, it's not just from us driving and eating and cows farting. They're trying to convince us to not eat meat to save the world, but they're not willing to stop, like, you know, bombing the shit out of the world and moving the military all over the place. Oh, so the Washington Times is a conservative newspaper, says Bonnie. So that, I would guess if anyone was going to be against this, weirdly, right now, this Great Reset, it would be the Republicans, which I hate to have any praise of either sort of the false dichotomy that is Democrats versus Republicans. But it is weird how it's set up that way now, you know, because especially like my whole life, at least I grew up in a very liberal sort of background and I was trained to hate Republicans and to feel like they're just greedy, idiot, like religious fundamentalist, what else, racist, you know, like all these things that they definitely are not in general. And yet here they are, like the only people who might actually represent some sort of a resistance to this. We'll see. It could happen. I'm sure most of them are in on it, but you know, it's not a bad point. Yeah. Yeah. Abe Williams says, sadly, electric cars are worse than gas fueled. It's absolutely true. They're just like, here, we'll put the name of this like actually spiritually intense genius Tesla on it, and you'll all think that it's great and buy it, you fucking tards. Like, and people are like, I did a good job for the environment. And it's sad because like you think you did. It's not your fault that you didn't know, but like that shit is toxic forever. Making it is toxic. That battery will be around for way longer than any sort of effects of any car otherwise. So this is also from December 5th, from the American Thinker, and it's called The Great Reset and Klaus Schwab. And they say that Mr. Klaus Schwab, he might be the most influential intellectual in the world today, which is terrifying because he is, again, the chief proponent of this Great Reset. I wonder what this links to. Oh, we've looked at this page before, but the Great Reset page itself from the World Economic Forum site. So we don't need that. We've seen that. It says he's a former member of the UN Advisory Board on Sustainable Development, of course. He actually founded the World Economic Forum, which is a profoundly influential group in the pyramid scheme that is this world. And each year they get together and they talk about topics ranging from gender equality and venture capital to mental health and climate change. And that sounds exactly like the list of their agendas over the past handful of years. So well summarized. They aim to engage the foremost political, business, cultural, and other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industry agendas. So they're not shy about it. You know, the stuff like this used to be like the conspiracy theory, is that just that there were groups like these and that they were aiming to influence political structures around the world. And now it's just like, yeah, no, we do that. It's cool. Like, nobody cares. They don't think that's weird at all. I did not know that the Great Reset was a term coined in a 2011 book by economist Richard Florida. But Schwab adopted it. That would be fun to look into as well. It's actually just called the Great Reset. How the post-crash economy will change the way we live and work. Maybe we did look at that on the show a little bit. Anyway, might be worth reading just to see their thinking. Although I think we here pretty well understand it, but I like to look into the belly of the beast sometimes. In the context of the United Nations Agenda 2030, and we should mention 21 as well, for sustainable development, to determine the future state of global relations, meaning global government, the direction of national economies, meaning globally dictated economic systems, the priorities of societies, meaning we'll tell you what you can and can't do and what your priorities are, and the nature of business models and the management of the global commons. The global commons, we're supposed to think, is a very lofty thing that we're just very lucky to have people thinking about, and in reality it's just the global government system, like the global government designers and proponents. It presents itself as a humane and compassionate means to inaugurate a beneficial root and branch transformation of the social, economic, and political structure of the world's operating systems: capitalism, the free market, and democracy, or republicanism. Because we know we don't really have democracy and we don't really want it. Practical capitalism is to be supplanted by what Schwab calls the stakeholder capitalism, in which the private sector is tightly controlled by government, otherwise known as fascism. I'm glad someone's calling it what it is. This seems like a pretty cool site. The free market is considered unfair and skewed to the advantage of piratical business class exploiting the world's poor and hungry. And that is exactly how it was presented to me most of my life, which is how I slid right into revolutionary communism and got, sucked into that for a while. Luckily, my own very strong internal spiritual compass, honestly, is what led me out of that. Because the first thing that broke through the haze of believing that I was like doing the best I could for the world's poor and hungry, which is a noble goal. This is what most people, and this is why we should not hate any people who are caught up in this, because they genuinely believe they're doing what's best for the world and for people. And that's a beautiful thing. But, when it turned out that you literally would not be able to, you were not allowed to have belief or faith in any sort of spiritual truth outside of this atheist worldview, then I was like, hold up. Like, wait a second. I can be down with all the things we're doing, but I cannot be down with that. And they were like, oh yeah, no, that's like a line in the sand with us. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess peace, like, bye, because I can't deny the spiritual truth of myself and this world. So that was lucky. But there's so many people who were raised and who have adopted and internalized atheism, which, cool, I don't even care. Do whatever you want. But that goes hand in hand with this, and this works very well. This system of drawing people into this path works very well. So democracy is inefficient in their view. It will remake the world, and in Schwab's words, to create a more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable world going forward. They don't mean that, though. If it was inclusive, then white men would be celebrated just as much as, Mexican women or whatever. Or like trans people or whatever else. Like, everybody would be celebrated. There would be no like war on a certain class or a certain group of people, no matter what they thought or they believed. And that would include people who understand that battery-driven cars are worse for the environment, or at least as bad as gas-driven cars. And so they don't mean inclusive. When they say inclusive, what they mean is the groups we've chosen that have actually been oppressed in the past, in order to like draw on their emotional trauma from their oppression and transform it into motivation to push us into this world. That's all they mean by inclusive. And a resilient world. Like, what? How is the world not already plenty resilient? It's lived through ice ages. I think it's fine. I don't think it needs help from us. Blah, blah, blah. But all the platitudes neatly packed into one sentence. Private property must be abolished, in short. Private transportation, not allowed. Contrary content in printing or production of materials will not be permitted. I mean, we're already seeing this, right? Like Amazon took Dr. Thomas Cowan's book off their site entirely. You can't buy it through Amazon as far as I understand. Even Barnes & Nobles, who then picked it up, like won't rank it. And so people aren't seeing it. You know, they're trying to suppress it. We see it all over our private platforms like Twitter and Facebook and all these social media platforms are suppressing content. And even places like Target or whatever, like they were trying to take out a book by this woman who looks actually pretty cool that is about trans kids and why we have so many more kids electing to get things like hormone therapy and surgeries at such a young age. Just a data-driven book, but they removed it because it didn't fit their idea of what the world should be like. So we can expect much, much more of that when they move even more into this fascist and tyrannical future that they're painting for us. Apparently, that involves suppression of the internet via certain domains and whatever. I'm sure that's happening already. We've all experienced shadow banning and things like that. So that'll just get worse too. Fossil fuels will be replaced. Home gardens will be outlawed. See this? If that's, I don't know where they're getting that, but that's the type of thing that, like, there's so many examples you can find if you look deeply at these ideas that the people who are promoting the Great Reset and other things are saying. There's so many things that are contradictory, like the inclusivity, supposed inclusivity. You can find little holes in it. You're like, okay, so if it's not that, then what is it actually? If it's not actually about being inclusive, then what is it? Oh, it's just about control. So it helps like unmask it, you know, especially if there's people who don't see through it yet. And if this is true, then it's a huge one because home gardens are the most sustainable thing you could do. But they're also one of the most empowering things that you can do that gets you off the grid. And that's why it's something we're focusing on in the 3 days of brightness retreat, if you're going to go to that. And it's not just like a how to start a garden, although we can address that, but it's more about how to make your garden thriving in any situation that you're in. Like no matter how small, or maybe you don't even have a yard, you can still have a garden, those types of things too. So all over for beginners and people who are somewhat advanced, you'll all get served in this 3 days of brightness retreat. So go check it out. But yeah, that just points right through their bullshit. Home gardens will be outlawed. I don't know where they're getting that. I didn't see that in any of the literature I read, but that does not mean it's not there. And what would be the argument behind that? So now we know this is coming from a Christian point of view, I think, because it says the Christian faith will be gradually suppressed, which I believe is true and I believe has already been happening, but it also is happening to many other faiths. You know, the one faith I have not seen it happening to, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I see Jewish people in New York City being, you know, not allowed to gather despite their religious beliefs and needs. I see the Christian faith in many ways getting attacked over many years, which I've talked about many times on the show. And I can see this in various other spiritual movements and whatever, but I have never seen it in Islam. I've never seen Islam being suppressed. And I'm almost like, are they like scared to go to, you know, mosques? And I don't know. You don't hear about it though, do you? And maybe, like I said, maybe I'm just ignorant. Maybe it's happening. But anyways, I think this person might have just been focusing on that when it really would be, as I said, all spiritual traditions and faiths. And they would likely be replaced by one, and we could probably guess which one. And vaccines will become mandatory, as they already are in many places like Italy and China and other totalitarian places, apparently. Society will become cashless. We saw that when we looked into this, that they intend to make it a digital currency governed by electronics and the government. There will be no middle class or entrepreneurs or small business, as we're already seeing, is being completely destroyed by not by the coronavirus, but by the political mandates in response to what they believe is a pandemic, I guess, or are just completely corrupt and are taking part in the pandemic. The United States must be neutralized via social isolation. So this is that idea that the United States actually is like the last bastion of possible liberty in the world, and that that is why these forces that aim for a global government have always had their sights on the USA. And I don't know if I buy that line so much, but if it's true, it's an interesting idea, because you can look at the things that have been presented in the US over time, and you can see, and Freeman Fly describes this very well in the Free Zone and various podcasts over time, that they've kind of tried to disrupt our idea of what America is all about, you know, the American dream, and, you know, that we have this system that works. And, you know, they kind of started with like Bill Clinton getting a blowjob because it was like crazy that a president would get a blowjob. And then they went into like, you know, Bush being tied to like, you know, terrorist events and whatever, and stealing elections, and we didn't trust our elections anymore. And then they went into Obama, like completely dismantling the Constitution and people cheering for it and not even being born in this country, which is illegal, all that stuff. And he like ties that into this exact phenomenon that we're not supposed to believe in the United States anymore. And it is a very interesting idea. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm just not really sure, but I'm willing to keep it in my mind as a strong possibility. You know? Could be. Anyway. So they're trying to isolate the United States, lockdown-induced poverty, face mask conformity, being passive towards your own oppression, constant surveillance. We're going to get enhanced human beings through probably this coming vaccine and many, many other means. The Neuralink that we just went over recently is also going to be a part of that. And yeah. So it talks about, too, you know, how Klaus Schwab has been outspoken about using this pandemic for these ends. And we know, we've talked about that as well. They never want to let a good crisis go to waste, as they say. And this article is pointing out that COVID has actually pushed more towards this agenda than climate change, which is their other big push. But it's to that point then where it's going to be compounded, where they're going to be able to say, like, how dare you, you conspiracy theorist, how dare you resist this? Not only are you killing people by spreading this very minor cold, but you're also killing the whole planet by not going along with our end to climate change. Blah blah. It goes into Trudeau. I'm sure this whole article is really, really good and fascinating, but I just mostly wanted to touch on Schwab and how he ties into all of this. Great Reset. So we went from the purpose disruptors to how they tie into the Great Reset, to how the Great Reset ties into Klaus Schwab, and how fascist it is. And this is a pretty good article as well. It is interesting that both him and Soros come from Adolf Hitler's Germany. Weird. Pretty weird, right? I'm not saying shit, I'm just saying they both come from there. Take what you will from it. Definitely a police state regime built on fear and violence, brainwashing and control, and propaganda and lies. That's for sure. Also industrialism and eugenics. Oh wow, I'm starting to see a pattern. It's almost like the Great Reset is fashioned after the Nazi Germany fascist movement. Dehumanization and disinfection. It's a really good point. I did not connect that. Wow, this idea with COVID that we're all infectious, we're all humans that need to be like, we're dirty, like we're fucking up everything, and you know, we're the problem in the world, we're the disease of the world, and how that connects with eugenics and Nazi Germany's whole fucking movement. That's crazy. It's so true. Plus, I mean, they were like obsessed with like the you know, that race, this like bloodline of like, that's like the pure, that's the clean. And if you go, like, we're going to talk to Gary Wayne on Thursday again, and be reminded that all of that leads back to like these dragon and snake icons, and the Satan. It all ties back to like the Nephilim and giants and Satan falling from heaven. It's pretty fucked up. And so that all got like crystallized actually in Nazi Germany, this history of, you know, that side of things trying to run the entire world and just fuck humans. And now we're like seeing it come up again. It's just under a different guise. It's the same exact shit over and over again. This is why Gary Wayne is so rad, because he's tracked this exact agenda over thousands of years, and it's like incontrovertible. He has so much evidence. His book is amazing. We'll get into it on Thursday, but I'm excited. But it ties into exactly what we're talking about today. It all ties together, like I said. You don't even have to make it. It just does. Schwab's dedicated his life to reinventing the nightmare, trying to turn it into a reality, not just for Germany, but for the whole world. It really is. It's exactly the same. It's so funny because the people who are the biggest proponents of this very leftist, you know, tyrannical, like suppression of free speech and all of this, they're supposedly against the Nazis. You hear them all the time. They're like, punch a Nazi and like, fuck Nazis, and we have Nazis everywhere. And it's like, you're the fucking Nazis. Like, you're literally the Nazis. You're acting like the Nazis. You're doing all the things that Nazis did. It's psychotic. Like, what is that even called when you're just like in complete delusion? Like, you think that you're against what you're actually doing? There has to be a word for that I'm not thinking of. It's pretty fucking crazy. Yeah, just every once in a while I'm like, how are they convincing themselves that this is like cool and good, but it's really twisted? It's so nefarious, like how subtle the manipulations have been for so long to get people to this point. It's very sad. Now, this is a good point too. Now it's not just Nazis, you know, it's not just like that ideology. It's not just this thousands of years old push for world domination, but it's this, now it's technocratic. Now it's a technocratic fascist vision. Technocracy combined with fascism is probably the most daunting and horrendous hurdle that humanity will ever face. It's so intense. This article's so good. Merging humans with machines in a curious mixes of digital and analog life. Nah, I'm good with analog. Just like I say every episode. That's my tagline, you know. Analog concentric electric wisdom. Analog for a reason. You know, I had this fantastic professor. One of those people who like wakes you up, you know, as you move along through life and does so in such a beautiful way. And I had a couple really fabulous professors, which is amazing because I was in the middle of, you know, leftist central. And he explained analog to me in this way that like blew my mind at the time. And I was like, holy shit, like analog is way superior to anything else. And all he had to do was draw like the same thing that I doodle every time I'm doodling, where you just like make loops over and over again. He's like, that's analog. He's like, this circle over here is technically separate from this circle over here, but they're connected. There's something they share, and they're never broken. And digital literally is, everything is individual and broken. And that was like all I needed. I was like, wow, I'm done. Digital is done. Digital is dead to me. And that's where, anyway, analog is always going to be superior. And they're using the COVID-19 crisis. So they do point out Schwab is not, of course, a Nazi in the classic sense, being neither a nationalist nor an anti-Semite, as testified by the $1 million Dan David Prize he's awarded by Israel in 2004. But otherwise, the actual like ends and goals of this movement and their control over societies and their obsession with, you know, cleaning the dirt out of humanity, this like eugenics push. It's very, very strict classes that they have of humans. That is ancient and still alive. It's all, there's just so much for people to take in. I don't know how people could put this all together unless they're like us. They're just like with us along this journey. Like how, people will ask like, well, why do you think that's what's happening? Like, give me your sources. And you're like, how do I summarize for you like 20 years or however long of various levels of research into various things that are all coming together right now? Like, that's not a possibility. But you can come look at some of the stuff I'm looking at and talk to me about it, and maybe we can get somewhere. Anyway. You guys are all like, wait, I thought we were talking about aliens. What the fuck is this? I swear to God, it ties together. It does, it does. Oh, God. The global platform for public-private cooperation. And Myers described how it creates a partnership between businessmen, politicians, intellectuals, and other leaders of society to define, discuss, and advance key issues on the global agenda. All you're saying is we're cramming every chance you had, and we're putting it all into one centralized place so we can control it, right? It used to like be that each thing kind of like had a check and balance on each other to some extent. And when it didn't, we called it conspiracy. And we called it like, the word I can't remember right now. Anyway, like we didn't celebrate it, It was like mob rule. Now we're like, this is what we should do. We should centralize everything and we should control every fucking aspect of every human's life. That is somehow what people think we should do. And they think it's great. They think it's going to save the world. I don't know if it's going to save anything. It's definitely going to push you into lifelong slavery without any hope of escape. Have fun with that. I got to read some of these books, man. I want to read The Great Reset, and I want to read this Fourth Industrial Revolution thing that they're basing a lot of their stuff on. I like this point. The myth of progress has long been used by the 1% to persuade people to accept the technologies designed to exploit and control us, and Schwab plays on this when he declares that the Fourth Industrial Revolution represents a significant source of hope for continuing the climb in human development that has resulted in the dramatic increases in quality of life for billions of people since 1800. This is so misleading. If you actually look at like what do I define as quality of life, and has that increased? Probably not. What did they define as quality of life, and has that increased? I guess so. Well, if we actually, and I think it's Bhutan has instead of the GDP, they have the happiness index and they have the environmental health index, and those are the things they determine whether or not their country is doing well or not. And so they actually, by our advanced standards, have some of the worst poverty in the world, but they have the highest happiness, and they have some of the best environmental standards and pristine resources. And so, is that what he's talking about? That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about like we have more phones, and we have more electricity to more places, and we have more like stuff. Like literally, he's talking about stuff. And he might also be talking about water, access to water. Like they might put a few things in there that you're like have to agree would be necessary. But again, in Bhutan, they don't necessarily base it on like, do you have water piped into your house? They're just like, do you have access to actually clean water? It's a very different standard. And I'd much rather go by that than whatever Klaus Schwab decided was progress for me, or was, quality of life for me. Quality of life for me would be like, I get to hang out with my family for as much time as possible, and my friends for as much time as possible. And then, have like leisure and have healthy food. And like I was saying, the environmental pristine, resources around me, those things, that would be quality of life for me. But that's not what they're talking about. They have their way of defining it. And you're supposed to just roll along with it. And people have a really hard time seeing through that. They're like, well, why wouldn't new computers and more technology and chips in your brain be progress? And you're like, I don't know how else to explain to you that it doesn't feel like human beings are progressing when we're sticking shit in our brains that's going to take over our bodies. But I guess if that's what you like, you should go do it. It's crazy, but whatever. Technology, technology, technology. They're obsessed with it. That's the fourth industrial revolution. It's the best thing that could ever happen, and we all should stick it in our brains. That's the summary of this section of this article. I think we're good on this. We see Klaus. We know what he's all about. If that wasn't clear enough, there's lots of people pointing out how he very specifically is tied to these ideas that we're going to have microchips in our brains and it's going to read our thoughts. And I'm sure they're not saying it, but if you can't imagine it, then you're failing in your imagination. That it'll do more than just read your thoughts. If you're going to stick this chip in your brain and it's going to be connected to their servers and clouds and whatever, it's going to do more than read your thoughts. It's going to be a fusion. This is his actual quote. The Great Reset will lead to a fusion of our physical, digital, and biological entity. That's the creepiest thing I've ever heard anyone say. So this article does a good job just really showing that it's very clear that the Great Reset and Klaus Schwab specifically are definitely pro fusing ourselves with the electronic. So that's terrifying. And we've talked about how this vaccine that's coming up is going to have all kinds of fun stuff in it and maybe chips and stuff. But as many people pointed out, they don't really need to have chips in the vaccine if they're going to head this direction. It's like eventually we're probably all going to be required to have something like that, and which sounds kind of similar to the mark of the beast. Not going to lie. That you have to have, just like you are going to have the vaccine, just like you have to have the mask. It's always baby steps, and the end will be like you have to be a android zombie or whatever, or else you can't be in our world. And I'm like, well, I hope that I can just like at least live out in like the mountains somewhere and we can all leave each other alone. I don't know. It'll be weird. It'll be weird. We'll see where they go with it. But they're not shy about being pretty open about where they want to go with this technocracy and this transhumanism. And it's also very clear, and they've been very clear, and we've talked about it on Rogueways before too, that that you definitely won't own anything in this new future. You don't have any possessions. They are not yours. We saw this awesome TED Talk a while ago on the show, and other people have covered it as well, where this woman describes how great it is that you won't own anything. Because, you'll get to just like call up some, I'm sure, very non-bureaucratic, like highly functioning government agency and ask them if you can use a knife for the evening because you'd like to cut some lettuce that you dug out of your trash bin because that was the only food that was available to you, or whatever. It's just going to be great. You don't have a mattress. You can go sleep on the dirty mattress that we found for you in this like flea-ridden hotel room down the street, because that's what communism is all about. You get what we give you. And they want us to think that that's great, and they want us to agree to it. And the sad thing is many people agree to it because their idea is that this will somehow be fairly actuated, like that we will all actually get a piece of the pie and that we will all actually get what we need. And that would be very nice. You look around and you see people in your community who don't seem to have what they need. And you're like, well, maybe we could all have what we need. And then you're like, maybe this is a great idea. And then you realize, when have they, the government or businesses for that matter, ever done anything really truly fair and egalitarian for you? And when has it ever worked well? It never has. This never happened. So this is a really nice dream, maybe, but it sounds more like a horrifying nightmare. Oh. And Klaus Schwab also praises China. China has done a great job. They've led the world in fighting this pandemic. Led the world. China is the best, according to Klaus Schwab. I don't get how people don't see China. I swear it was only a few years ago that it was like pretty obvious and well known that China was the most terrifying thing in the world. And that, it's been a long ass time that they've been this terrifying. I didn't know there were people who still didn't know it. Now we can't even talk about it because it's racist somehow. That's China. China, literally, they re-educate people. They'll take busloads of people off and send them to re-education camps. They cut up Tibetans and Uyghurs, and take their organs and give them to people. And they're the most fucked up country. They have the social credit system. I've been like talking about this literally for more than 20 years. And I don't know how anyone has missed it. And Klaus Schwab is praising how wonderfully they've been handling this pandemic. This is just signaling. It's really, because we all know there's not even really a pandemic. We all know every country's doing the exact same shit. And so it's really just signaling like, we love China. China's great. And we've been seeing this signaling for a while. And it's pretty terrifying, to be honest, because if there is any truth that the United States does have some sort of bastion of the opportunity of possible freedom, then it's fast being demolished by China. China's had it in their targets for a while. And so that's really scary that Klaus Schwab is so happy about China. But of course he is. And of course China has a think tank that rates all 50 U.S. governors. Of course they do. I'm sure you guys have heard about this as well. China, best friend of Klaus Schwab and the Great Reset, probably intended to be the main model of our bright and shiny future, is really excited to know which governors are nice to China and which are not, which can be manipulated and which cannot. And so that also tells you something. And again, this could be whatever, disinformation, like limited hangout, I don't know, whatever. But at the very least, we see what China thinks, or what China wants us to think they think about these different governors. The hard line. 6 governors, including Andrew Cuomo, Mike Parson, and Ron DeSantis. So I guess Andrew Cuomo is not pro-China. That actually surprises me. 17 governors are friendly, including these people, including my governor, Jared Polis. Asshole. And unclear, we're not sure yet, we need to go butter them up a little and find out, is all of the rest of them. So they have state-funded research in place, putting emphasis on nuanced analysis of U.S. domestic politics amid Chinese government efforts to quietly reshape America's China policy from the ground up. And it's really true. And I know I've said it before, but I was invited to China twice and went there twice, both for ridiculously cheap, and had just awesome, 5-star hotels and like buses taking me around and like all this, just so I like made them tell me. I'm like, dude, you have to just tell me why. Are you trying to get me to work here? Do you want me to move to China? Like, what is there? I know nothing comes for free. What's the trade-off? And it was literally 100% just to get me as a teacher to go back and tell my students that China is cool, that China's a great, wonderful country, and that China's neat. That's it. Just to influence our idea that China is cool. They put that much money into it. They know exactly what they're doing, and they know how to make people think that China's not bad. And it's working, because people right now don't know that China is the most crazy fucking fascist evil place in the world that we know of, if it's all real, like, wow. So it's working. I was on Twitter not that long ago, and I said something about China just on like a random post. I was like, oh yeah, because China's like so great at not brainwashing people or something, it's like sarcastic. And like 3 Chinese allegedly people showed up and were like, oh, it's so sad that you Americans don't realize how much us Chinese people really love our country and love living in China. I'm like, what? No, you don't. I was like, I guess you're like under duress to say that or something. And they're like, oh, it's just like horrible that you're this racist. I'm like, oh, you're like a bot, or you're a paid, shill farm or whatever. But I was like, so they're clearly also have been on that game for who knows how long, of just like hiring people to comment and do whatever and shape opinion. But they know what they're doing. They're good. So also in this Chinese, again, all of the purpose disruptors, all of the Great Reset, all of this is like Nazism, but it's China. China's model is enshrined in all of these policies. Agenda 21, all of it. Agenda 2030, it's all China. If you want to know what it's going to be like, you can look at China, which is terrifying. And Trump, of course, tweeted this video of Chinese professor claiming that Beijing can swing U.S. policy because it has people at the top of America's core inner circle of power in its pocket. And it's a pretty neat clip if you haven't seen it. Neat in that we've always had this from China. They've always been very open. There's a paper from their like military, strategic, whatever offices that outlines like how they're going to infiltrate and take down America, and how they're going to expand into America and Canada, and they've been following it. You can see how they've also been following it. You know, they never have been shy about hiding this from us. That's totally open. And here we see this professor just being like, yeah, we've always had that until Trump. And then Trump came, and now we didn't have as many because Trump was hostile towards, you know, Wall Street and China, which you're like, well, what? If there's any truth to that, now we understand. I mean, not that we didn't. I just like, it just points to the possibility that this is why the media is so anti-Trump. I know there's a bunch of people out there screaming at me not to buy into that, and I get it. I just like am very open-minded, and I accept that it's possible that that is true. And if it is, like, well, here we go. Here we go to become China now with Joe Biden. And so in China, this is a heavily suppressed video, which is weird because it's being given in China to Chinese people. I think what's suppressed about it is that they don't want Chinese people knowing that we're seeing it and not liking it or something. I'm not sure. But anyways, this guy's talking and he says, we've always been able to influence the US because we have people at the top in our pocket. I'm sure that includes the friendly governors they've identified. I'm sure it includes more than that. There's, Ben of Mysterious Universe. I'm sorry, I'm not remembering his last name right now. We're not on a first name basis, but but he's really, really good. He has been really good over more than a decade documenting China's foreign policy or foreign interference, rather. And for one really good example, he was able to show how in Australia there was a candidate for some government office or another. And he came out finally and said, like, yo, the Chinese government just tried to give me something like $1 billion or $1 million or like some really large amount of money that was untraceable in order to like keep me in their pocket and influence Australian government. And he conveniently killed himself like 2 days later. So, you know, China's doing this all over the world. The end. That's what China's doing. And China's been influencing the United States, I'm sure, for a very, very long time. And it seems they are winning that if what it seems like is happening is real and not an illusion. It's been a while since I've checked in with the chat. What are you guys talking about? 6 feet apart is a witch's ritual. It's definitely a spell, right? We're definitely, when we're doing it, taking part in a spell. When we're putting our mind and our energy and our physical actions into this alignment with them, then we're putting our energy into their spell. Jesus, or Jesus Lopez says, Busch Gardens has been open for months and nobody is dying. Same with what we had, like BLM and whatever other riots and Trump rallies, and nobody was dying. And they're like, oh, but now there's a second wave. You're like, well, that would have been a long time ago if those things were, if it was real. Yeah. We knew wave 2 was coming because they told us it was coming. And it has nothing to do with what we did or didn't do. It's just the plan. Yes, I've been very lucky myself to still not ever wear masks. I don't wear masks. I'm still able to shop. It was so weird. I was so weird. The other day I went into a Natural Grocers, which is like, Natural Grocers, I don't know if you know, Natural Grocers is a pretty cool store. It's like a co-op, but it's a chain, and they just have really high quality goods, and they seem to be, in this whole time they've been like, look, there's going to be a lot of people not wearing masks because a lot of people have medical whatever, and so if you're not wearing a mask, that's your thing, you have medical reasons or whatever, and if you are, you are. And so I've been shopping there this whole time because I'm like, this is one of the few places I can go in. I started sneaking into like Safeways and King Soopers and various places just to see if I could, and much more recently, like within the past 2 months, and I could. And that was pretty cool. So then I started shopping other places too. And then all of a sudden I went to Natural Grocers the other day and they didn't let me in. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, we don't allow people without masks anymore. I'm like, but I have a medical exemption. Oh, and I made this really awesome card. I should show you guys. It was really cool. And it's my medical exemption card. And they wouldn't let me in still. And I was like, well, why? And they're like, yeah, we just made this change. And I was like, but you've been letting me in this whole time. And they're like, yeah, we just changed now. I'm like, this place who actually understands the medical exemption and has been allowing it this whole time has changed, but I can now still go into like Safeway and shit. So it's like fucking stupid. But it really sucked. It was actually a bad day. I was like, this day sucks. I also looked up that day and I saw Starlink for the first time. I was like, oh, fucking awesome. I fucking hate you, Elon Musk. I hate whoever the fuck put these things up in my fucking sky, because that's my fucking sky, not your fucking sky. You don't fucking own the world. Who fucking gave you the permission to put this garbage in the fucking sky, allegedly shooting down 5G at all of us? Like, fuck you, you piece of shit. It makes me so angry. It's so fucked up. I don't know why people aren't more pissed about it, but honestly I do, because nobody fucking knows. Like, how many people do you know that even know that Starlink exists? I asked somebody, I was like, dude, have you ever seen Starlink before? I just saw it for the first time. And they're like, what's Starlink? I'm like, yeah, exactly. Because nobody fucking even knows that they're putting all this shit up there. Like, it's like a really bad dystopian movie. Anyway, I saw that and then I was disallowed from going into Natural Grocers. I was like, this day sucks. But it wasn't that bad. It's not that bad. Truth is Alchemy is asking, is that what I saw today? Well, if you saw a line, like a straight line of like 30 or 40, I don't know how many, like dots that aren't blinking, just following each other across the sky, then yes, that's what you saw. People were, for a while, there was just like a rash of, like people being like, oh God, it's aliens, and like freaking out because they didn't know what it was, which is what you would think it was, because it's really fucking weird looking. It's like not okay. Yeah. And it's weird because I was watching it and it's going north. Someone asked me actually, or I wouldn't have even thought of it, but my friend Brian asked me like, which direction was it heading? And I was like, weird, it was headed north, which means that it also goes around the South Pole if we live on a globe. It's interesting. Oh, aliens will help humanity, Jesus says. Well, maybe. Or maybe they will fucking take over everybody's soul. Because they're demons. We'll see. It's one of the two. So, getting to aliens finally. And this ties in because all of this is happening at the same time for a reason. And again, maybe, Jesus, maybe you're right. Maybe there are actual flesh and blood or otherwise aliens. Maybe they're interdimensional. Who knows? And maybe they are coming here in a galactic federation to help humanity solve its problems. And that would be really, really neat and cool. And it's possible in my mind. It's way more possible in my mind that they've been planning this, as they've said that they've been planning it for many, many years in order to unite humanity under one world government. And given that that's the trend of everything we've looked at today, and it's the trend of everything we've seen happening in society, that seems a lot more likely to me as why it's happening right now. All they have to do to convince us that that's true is have really, really high level graphics, which we have. We have deep fakes and things like that. We know. That's just what we know. So who knows what else? And to have complete control of the media, which they have, and to give us enough impetus to want to trust something like that. And if they have us in this place where we're all waiting for a global catastrophe under global climate change, and global catastrophe because of COVID, the bad cold, and global catastrophe because like no one's getting along and like all of this stuff, then we're much more likely to go along with the Galactic Federation, whatever they are. Again, could be wrong. They could be the best, they could be real, and they could be the best ever. Everything I've ever experienced in my life that presented it itself in a way that seemed like a UFO or an alien turned out to be a pretty dark entity that can make itself seem any way it wants. And I call those demons. So there's a lot of people and a lot of evidence that the things that people have called aliens and UFOs are possibly demonic. And I tend to go that route. And again, there's very few things where I'm like, this is definitely the answer and there's no other possibility. So I don't go that far, but I'm basically there. I have the idea in my head that it could be otherwise, but I don't think it is. So this guy from Israel says that, and he's a general and he's a professor, and his name is probably going to be mispronounced by me, but it's Haim Eshid. And he says, yes, we have had contact with aliens, but it's been kept a secret because humanity isn't ready, which is bullshit. And we all know it's bullshit. Again, I've said this a billion times, but, if all the things that I've seen and interacted with, they're there, why don't they just come, show themselves to the people? Would get the fuck over it. It's not like we would just, break into schizophrenia and, no one would ever come back. Most people would be fine. And the people who wouldn't be were the people who already weren't going to be fine at some point. So, it's not, those beings would know that better than anyone, I would think. Again, I could be wrong, but it just it seems like a pretty bullshit answer. You're not ready for us. Bitch, you're not ready for me. That's what I'm saying. Yes, Biggie Smollett says interdimensional entities could be good or bad. My instinct is to proceed with caution and skepticism. That's absolutely where I'm at. If they come to me and they're can prove to me that they're hella good and have nothing but love in their hearts and, and I'll be able to feel that and know that, and you won't have to convince me. But so far that has not been what they've shown me. And so I'm not down with them. So this guy served as head of Israel's space security program for nearly 30 years. He's a 3-time... So just reread that in your brain and say, for 30 years, the Israeli government trusted this person with high-level security. There. We fixed it. It doesn't matter in what sector. This is an agent of the state. All right. He's a 3-time recipient of the Israeli Security Award, so he definitely did everything they wanted him to do all the time. Right? That's how we can decode that sentence. And he explained that both the U.S. and Israel have been dealing with aliens for years. I'm sure they have. I just don't think that what they call aliens are flesh and blood beings or even interdimensional beings from far, far away who have come here to help us. I think they've been here all along, and I think they would love it if we forgot their ancient motivations and origins and went along with whatever they're here to do now. But I could be wrong. But I could also be right. And he clarified that they weren't talking about immigrant aliens, they're talking about the Galactic Federation. It could be happening. I'm not opposed to it. It's just like the Trump being actually a good thing. It could be true. I just don't really buy it. It doesn't really fit so much of the evidence. But I don't know. Lots of shit seems one way and ends up being another. He gave further descriptions about exactly what sort of agreements have been made between the aliens and the U.S., which ostensibly have been made because they wish to research and understand the fabric of the universe. What, the aliens want to understand it, or the U.S. does? Because the aliens, if they don't already understand it, would be a pretty strange aliens. This cooperation includes a secret underground base on Mars where the American and alien representatives are. And this is ties in with all the secret space program stuff. Again, it could be real. I could have been wrong all along. I'm totally willing to happily admit it as soon as it's proven to me that it's not just a giant ruse to get us to go along with a global government. If true, this would coincide with U.S. President Donald Trump's creation of the Space Force as the 5th branch of the U.S. Armed Forces, though it's unclear how long this sort of relationship, if any, has been going on between the U.S. and its reported extraterrestrial allies. If so, it's been a lot longer than that. But he insisted that Trump is aware of them and that Trump is on the verge of disclosing their existence. we'll see if that happens. You know, it does not mean that they're real. It just means that Trump is going along with whatever this plan is. But we'll see if he does or not. Because this also could just be a guy getting attention because, I don't know. But more likely he's still an agent, just like he always has been an agent of the state, and he's carrying out a mission just like he always has carried out missions. They want to prevent mass hysteria. Again, if you come to people and you're like, holy shit, the aliens are killing everyone and you have no chance of survival, like, yeah, you're going to have mass hysteria. But if you just come to people and you're like, yeah, there's aliens here, here's a picture of one, they're going to start talking to our presidents, like, people would talk about it and freak out and, like, be like, holy shit, for, like, a while, and then they'd be like, yeah, okay, there's aliens. Like, we're not all just, like, gibbering idiots in the corner, like, needing fucking applesauce spoon-fed to us. We're all, like, capable human adults. Even when we're, like, slightly unstable, we still are capable human adults. It's just such a stupid, I just don't buy it. It's just such a bullshit excuse. It gives them also endless time. Endless deniability, you know? Like, yeah, no, that's totally why. We're just keep doing that. We keep protecting you and your psyches, but someday soon you'll be ready for it. And what was the defining factor and making us ready for it suddenly? What suddenly pushed us from we could never handle the truth to, like, now is the time when we can handle the truth? What was it? No? Nothing? No answer? That's because there's no real reason. That's because it's a bullshit excuse. The timing of releasing this information was due to how much the academic landscape has changed and how respected he is in academia. Again, what a bullshit excuse. Nothing has changed in academia that suddenly makes them happy to talk to ex-military agents about aliens. They're just as happy to do it now as they ever have been, which is to say not very happy because they have a huge bias against it. Anyway, he's saying if he said this 5 years ago, he would have been hospitalized. That's also not true. There's been plenty of people, including in the government and out of the government, at every level of media, stars, regular people, all kinds of people who have said that they believe in or have seen or have experienced alien interaction. And most of them are not hospitalized. And so that's his story, is that now universities are ready for it, and so he is too. He says aliens have prevented nuclear apocalypses. Yes, I've seen the videos of them shooting the various, like, missiles and hanging out missile silos and all that, and that's neat if there's some of those types of entities that have prevented that. But it also could be a really good PR move on their part. Because, by the way, these things have been reported for thousands of years. Anyway, nothing really supports his claims. He's just saying it. So there's no real evidence, but that's true of, like, everything. And then he's saying that we're going to go back to the moon. And yeah, that's about the end of that. So I'm saying at the very least, this is, you know, a guy who's excited and wants to share information with us. And at the very worst, this is even more signaling that we're headed towards the moment where they use this as one more push to get us into the global reset. And that's how it all ties together. So yeah, let's see. Oh, I was going to do some call-ins, but it's just been such a long show already. I don't know if I'm going to do a call-ins, guys. I don't know if I can. I think it's been good. It's just, I can't stress enough to, at the very least, take everything about aliens with a gigantic dose of salt. I want to believe, too, that there is something coming to save us all. It's an awesome thought. I want to think that Trump is great. I want to think that he's here to save the U.S. from the clutches of China. I want to think that aliens and whatever, the Galactic Federation is coming to help us get to, like, the next stage of humanity or whatever. But If you, again, look at like the history of these power structures that have been around for thousands of years in an unbroken chain that leads exactly to the power structures of today, and that the entirety of that has been spent trying to figure out how to subjugate, enslave, and oppress all of humanity, then you can't really like deny that it's still going on. And you look at all these things and you're like, well, they all tie together. You have this fake pandemic. It's taking away all of the exact things that would allow us to keep ourselves free and happy and full of liberty and goodness and connection to each other. It's removing all of that. It's continuing that trend of subjugation and oppression and dismantling human connection and societies. And then you're throwing in how well does the alien deception fit into all of that? It fits perfectly. So it could be chance and random that it's just not actually part of it. It totally could be. I am not saying it's absolutely not. I'm just saying it's very unlikely. It's very unlikely that these aliens who we have seen and interacted with and had direct interaction and observation of for thousands of years are choosing right now as the moment that humanity can handle their existence. Right? All of the fairy lore is the same as alien lore. All of the shamanic types of I shouldn't say visuals, shamanic experiences, they mimic the alien thing. All of the alien stuff mimics demonic and entity interaction as well. You compare them all. I have a whole book about it up here by Graham Hancock called Supernatural. Is that the one? I could be wrong about the title of that. I'm pretty sure it's Supernatural. I'm pretty sure it's Supernatural, where he outlines exactly what I just described. Evidence after evidence after evidence, year after year after year, for thousands of years. And you're like, holy shit, these are all the same beings. There's no way that's not the same beings. There's no way there's that many different types of beings and that they all behave exactly the same. And they present themselves exactly the same. And you have the exact same experience of them when you encounter them. That's very unlikely. It's not logical to come to that conclusion. It's possible, not logical. And so, what are they? Are they aliens? No. No, they're not. They are some sort of entity that can present itself under a wide range of phenomenon. You can call them shapeshifters if you want. They definitely can change shape at will. They could be nothing. They can be not a shape. They can be just a presence. You can feel them physically. You can feel them mentally. You can feel them emotionally. But you can't actually put your finger on them because they can change into anything they want. They have tricked people over and over again into all sorts of things. They have harmed people over and over again in all sorts of ways. And maybe a few of them here and there did like some cool, good things too. So I'm not going to say that whatever these entities are, like Biggie Smollett was saying earlier, could be good or bad. There are some good and some bad in any sort of category of being that we've ever seen so far. So it would make sense that there would be some good and some bad. But overall, for me, I'm like, do I want to give my consent or my access to anything to just some like random being I don't understand? Like, not me. You can do it if you want. I'm not down. And I don't know, it just worries me. So, especially like I said, how it ties in with the rest of these agendas. You know, we go from all this great reset fomenting and all of this like push towards that global agenda of domination and complete enslavement of the human population, especially through technocratic, implant related sort of means. And you add that type of entity into that equation right at this moment, and it's not likely a good thing for us. So again, if I were going to an alien world and I was an alien and I was like, I really want to go down there and help these people, I wouldn't hang around for thousands of years fucking with random people and just like poking at them and often harming them and being like, oh, they're just not ready for me yet, but I'll just like stick something up this one's butt and I'll like take that one out of its bed and drop it 60 miles away. This will totally work out for me in the end. Like, it doesn't make sense. That is not how you would act. I'll get off it. So this is why I say it's alien bullshit. It's not aliens. It's very likely not aliens. Very, very likely, unless by aliens you mean whatever we call those types of entities. Demons, angels, smokeless fire, jinn, whatever you want to call them. Whatever those are, if you want to call those aliens, then yeah, they're aliens. But are they what we traditionally think aliens are? I don't think so. And I really, really, really hope that you at least consider that if you're out there listening to this and you're like, no, dude, I fucking met aliens. Like, well, I did too. And then I realized that they are not what we thought they were. Luckily. And I hope that everyone else meeting them has the same ability to see through their bullshit, because they're bullshit. Anything that you would trust should be treating you really well in a very open way, not crossing any of your boundaries, like respecting you as an individual. And if that entity isn't doing it, then it's not a cool entity. Again, I'll get off it, but that's my take so far. That's where I'm at so far. Abe William asks, there have been positive alien encounters. What's your opinion on those accounts? Like I said, I think any type of entity has both, good, bad, medium, everywhere in between. If these aliens, in my experience, they're that category of being that could be categorized as angel or demon or, jinn or whatever. Those entities are what we call aliens in my experience. And so are some of them capable of being positive and doing positive things? Like, hell yeah, there's angels in the world, right? Like, if I think. And so you can have those types of experiences. I've had very positive experiences, I should say, by the way, but they have not presented themselves as traditional UFOs and aliens. So if that makes sense. It's the same type of entity, but it has not presented itself in that way because it's not being deceptive. When it's positive, it's not being deceptive. So that's part of my point, is that presenting yourself like you're a UFO or an alien is deceptive if that's not what you actually are, right? So yes, there can be positive experiences. You can interact with entities that are positive entities and beings. And also, you should ask yourself why there are entities that have been being this deceptive over this many thousands of years. Hopefully that answers the question. Mabel Freeman says, this is why I keep my 2,000 books. I can't even remember the mass psychosis name. Is it the, Stockholm Syndrome? Is that the mass psychosis that we're talking? That's the one we seem to be currently suffering under the most, I think. A galactic federation would be cool. It'd be cool if there was 20 billion species out there and they were all here together to share with us and invite us into the galactic federation. That'd be rad. If we're going to have like a space utopia future, I'm down. If space is real, planets are real, the world's not flat, there's aliens, and we're going to do that right, and like we all get to have like whatever's in Star Trek where we just press a button and get to eat anything, like I'm down. But I don't think that that's what's going on. I could be wrong. Yeah. UI Guy 71 says these deep state Israelis, like deep state here, worship archons. Those are nasty interspatial gods. The demiurge is on Saturn, so yeah, they know aliens. More along your lines than their lines. Yeah, it's not looking so great. Yeah, was it Kissinger who said that we're gonna, like, he like laid it out? Who was it? Someone laid out like, oh, first we're gonna have a mass terrorist attack, and then we're gonna have a pandemic, and then we're gonna have an alien invasion. This has been a plan for a long ass time. I don't know if it was Kissinger, but it was like someone like that. It was one of those world planners who are so fucking arrogant, but actually like powerful enough to be right, and they're like, this is how we're gonna do it, and that's how they're doing it. Here we go. So a lot of us in this community have been expecting the fake alien invasion for a long time, and I think this could be one of the signals that it is starting. I think they're infinitely capable of like changing their timelines and pushing it out a few more years if it doesn't like take, if we're not like, but people are going along with all their bullshit right now, so it could be the time to unleash it. Yeah, it is funny how so many aliens mimic succubus and incubus encounters as well. Supernatural is a great book. You should go read it if you have not. Yeah, and My Mouth Shall Speak the Truth brings up Fire in the Sky kidnapping. Doesn't sound like a good time. Like, I don't know if many people remember all of the overwhelmingly horrible alien encounters. And I know there's like the whole line out there where people are like, that's, it's like being on DMT or something, and if you don't like just accept the experience, you have a bad trip. And so the aliens took them and he just had a bad trip. And I'm like, dude, he like had shit shoved inside of him against his will. It's not really a bad trip. It's like, just accept it. Like, yeah, I guess if you accept that, it'll go like better for you, but like, I don't want that kind of better. I would like to just not have things inside of me. Thank you very much. That's what I'm saying. You get it. You get me. That's right. We don't even do that to our own species. Hopefully. God, some people do. I am also gonna remind you guys of how to turn all this into a bright winter. Because that's our goal, right? Howard Ewing nails it. Project Blue Beam me up, Scotty. It is, and it's such a nice fantasy, and that's all these things are, right? They're like, the world's gonna end. Oh look, we have green technology. You're like, oh, that sounds great. And you go along with the fantasy. And they're like, oh my God, this virus is going to kill everyone. Oh, look, we have a vaccine. You're going to be okay. And people are like, oh, okay. And they go along with the vaccine. And now they're like, oh my God, the aliens are here. Oh, but look, they're going to give us like a way to be like the perfect communist utopia. Just put this implant in your brain or whatever it's going to be, And people are going to be like, oh, okay. Fear is a silly, silly bitch. Yes. So, in the end, we are the same beings that we have always been, and nothing has changed in that. And we have the same spiritual connections that we've always had, and nothing is going to change with that. The energies that they're sort of coalescing seem like they are coalescing, and that could get like pretty dark. And that's the 3 days of darkness that's coming up, coinciding with that grand conjunction on the solstice. And the sun, its energy is at its lowest at that point, spiritually speaking, astrologically speaking. And so it could be, as we've been talking about on the show, that is a time that they take to pull off some dark shit. Like, that vibe was going to fit some of their agenda pretty well. Does that mean something will actually happen that day? Who knows, right? We don't know. We can always try to like guess about their movements and their plans, and we will never know if we're right until we get there. But what we can know is that energetically they're doing that, even if nothing like discernible happens on that day, or the days shortly following that. But we can know that they're still using those energies, and we can still know that we want to not be a part of that. We don't want to put our energies along with it, right? And that's part of like trying not to go along with the mask thing, trying not to go along with the social distancing thing, and just being true to yourself and staying connected with people and going to hang out with people and taking walks outside and doing all the normal stuff you would normally do. It's the same idea, right? You're taking your energy and you're keeping it for yourself. And you're like, I'm going to do this with my energy because I'm a free being. And this is part of your spiritual ability and your spiritual truth. You have free will. You get to decide. And so that's what they're doing, all of that stuff. And there's so many people going along with it. And it is very dark. And so right at the peak of that darkness, we are going to hold our 3 days of brightness. And even if you can't come to the event, which I really hope you can come, and I really hope you go get the discount in rogue.locals.com and grab your tickets and come with us. It's going to be so rad. But that is exactly what we're doing. And again, whether you're there or not, I hope that you're also have like a plan in mind of how you're going to keep extra calm. As someone said in the chat, I think it was Jesus, is the best place you can be is in a place of calm, rational, balanced state, right? And that is when your light can shine the brightest. And you want to have a plan to keep that somehow. Maybe it's that on those days you're going to do like an extra bout of hanging out outside with your feet on the ground, even though it's very cold. Maybe during those days you're going to brew this extra special tea that you're going to hold all day and remember while you're drinking it, like, this is, my happiness. I'm going to like create my happiness and my brightness, or whatever it might be for you. Maybe you have actual like rituals and things that you want to do on those days. Whatever it is, we got to keep that brightness going. And especially if they do plop something down, like they make it seem very convincingly like many ships have come to Earth, and like all of these beings that look very different from us are like behaving in these ways that seem so amazing and cool and are trying to like lead us into a certain direction, then we just want to like remember to pause, and really pause for a very long time, because there's never going to be a reason to rush. Right? And this has been one of the primary spiritual principles that I've gathered in my experiences with these entities, is that you never are going to need to rush. Anything that respects your soul is never going to try to rush you. They're never going to put a deadline on you. They're never going to put an ultimatum on you. And they're never going to ask you to sacrifice some aspect of yourself. Period. Because doing any of those things would be abusive and controlling, and you are a free and sovereign being. So as much as you know that, and the more you can hold that energy and be very, very true to it, the better chance you have of helping to keep this as a very bright winter, and helping more and more other people also see your light and remember to shine themselves, and also remember to pause and not get bullied and abused into any kind of agreements. Because we remember that these agreements happen on a spiritual level. And so if something like that were to come and to happen, and many people were like, yes, I want to join the Galactic Federation or whatever, that can be the level of agreement that is needed for something to then otherwise do something that would otherwise be transgressing upon your boundaries. So we just want to consider all those things, right? And most importantly, we want to keep it bright. We want to keep ourselves very conscious and very aware and very intentional of our energy. And I really hope everyone is understanding that by no means am I saying we should ignore sadness or ignore stress or ignore that like we are real human beings and we have these very human days sometimes. Like I was saying the other night, I was like very upset. I was practically crying. Maybe I even did cry. I don't remember. About the Starlink and the mask thing and like whatever. It was a bad day. I don't pretend to not have bad days or bad moments or bad emotions. I deal with them. I let myself cry. I let myself be angry for a minute. I try to figure out what I can do, and then I empower myself to move forward. And so you can't ignore those negative things. So there is darkness this winter, and there is possibly going to be a lot more darkness this winter. And our, tarot reading for December, which has traditionally been pretty accurate, did imply that there would be some pretty severe darkness. And so I don't want to pretend any of that isn't real or isn't happening. I just also want to empower people to remember that despite all of that, you always hold your connection right here in your heart chakra to all of the love of the entire universe. And it's never separate from you. And it's not going anywhere no matter what happens. So don't forget, the more you practice and the more you keep that in your mind, the more you can keep it alive in the world, in you and in everybody else. You're actually saving the whole world. So I hope you're going to come to the 3 days of brightness retreat. Like I said, I'm going to get up some single day passes for people so they could choose which day they want to come and just come to one day if that's easier for them to, afford, or if it's just like more fun, you don't want to go to something for 3 days or whatever. So I am very excited to offer those to you. And I hope that even more of you get to join us by using that method. And so go check that out. Wait for that. I will announce it when it's up, and hopefully I'll get it up today or tomorrow. We'll get this done. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Candace C, for the very generous super chat. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you so much. Candace is a supporter at rogue.locals.com. Candace gets access to, for example, the second half of the Thomas Cowan interview, the December tarot reading, and other exclusive content. We have fun there. We keep it a bright winter there, but we also keep it real there. And we hope to see you there. It's such a fun community. Thank you again so much, Candace. And all of you, I hope to see you at rogue.locals.com, where we can all play and interact and share our days with each other, and in a censorship-free way, which is the best part, honestly. So until you master the ability to see through all of the levels of illusion that are being more and more cast about you, and until you can hold the brightest of lights within that illusion to clear out the fog and wake up the other people still stuck in the delusions. Travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
It's a one-on-one lesson. Make your dome hurt while up on earth. My bones are blessed from holy dirt. Vibes manifested to words that told me search for verbs and adjectives to describe birth. Worth more than one can speak. While the tongue beats a weak, a sour taste in your mouth, bittersweet. Words can also kill you when you sleep. Mind condition, low frequencies while the subconscious mind listens. I can tell a vision filled with lies, disguised as truth, and spread it like the word to the youth. Watch the tube. A place where the God gets booed is sorcery. To recreate a God forgery does more than meets the eye. Not too many know. Just hear me flow like the eye of Horus Penio. Yeah, not ready to leave until we believe we're free to go. You hear me?
Run. Sculpted from the ether, the material will eat ya. Stuck on this plane, lanes use jet fuel to greet ya. The dimensional three ain't beating me on top of the fourth. Didn't climb Jacob's ladder to squab with a sword. Forged with ink drizzle, branch down, try quiet your lamps now. Ascension past the matter, let they slam out they damn mouths. We ain't on land now, but they over in a stand. Sacrificing wisdom, hoarding dumber, kosher, wicked hands. Putting faith in worthless worship of the mortals. Artificial portals, mass ingestion of the black goo, bioengineered morsels. Conversing with machine elves, bypassing maggots. They stuck on Android screens now. I'm scrolling emerald tablets. Moloch living lavish, off the backs of the savage. Them clasp hands at the Sabbath. Smack of energy damage, they done twisted the tongues. But nanotech in the lungs, the awakening's begun. All they really can do is fucking run.